Welcome back to The Dive. Our guest today will deep dive into the January FOMC meeting, Russia-Ukraine tensions and their impact on stocks, platinum, oil, gold, and what he finds most interesting during earnings season. He's one of our regulars and the founder and CEO of Bubba Trading. Todd Bubba Horwitz is joining us today. But before we bring Bubba on, just a quick reminder to go ahead and smash that subscribe button for me, please. Hey, Bubba, welcome back to the show.
Cassandra, always great to be with you. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. All right, so let's begin here. The FOMC minutes released this week indicate that the Fed will likely start to raise interest rates soon and outlined plans for shedding trillions of dollars of bonds off the Fed's balance sheet. How real do you think they are with this talk? Do you think that the Fed is trapped?
Well, I think the Fed is a bunch of morons. I mean, I think that they have no clue of what they're doing, and these rates should have been hiked years ago. They're not a year or 6 months behind. They're about 8 years behind of hiking rates. And they're going to be forced to hike because of the high inflation. And when you look at the inflation model, we have two ways to cure inflation in this country. One is to raise interest rates, which would not be good because, of course, that raises the debt ceiling of the United States. It raises their debt service on a monthly basis because those are for their bonds that they borrowed money off in the first place. But the other way is to go back to shale producing and fracking oil and becoming a net exporter again. And of course, our inflation would go back down to normal where we were before President Biden took office.
Okay, so now NATO has accused Russia of increasing its troop count at the Ukrainian border, a day after Moscow claimed it had begun withdrawing some of its military units. This story changes every day at this point. So do you think fears of Russian attacks on Ukraine are weighing down stocks?
Not at all. I think this is the Biden narrative. There's no chance. Well, I can't say there's never no chance, but there's a very remote chance that Russia will go into Ukraine. I actually have some inside sources in Russia that are telling me they are laughing at this administration for the narrative that they're trying to create around this. And it is laughable. And in fact, Putin and the troops have already pulled back farther from the border. So to me, this is, again, more nonsense trying to spin a lousy narrative around an economy that's in the toilet coming into an election.
Okay, so Russia accounts for 9% of the world's platinum supply. Given the Russia-Ukraine geopolitical tensions, do you think that platinum could be affected in the expected undersupplied market this year?
Well, platinum's been the rarest bird I've seen in many, many years. It refuses to really move. It's kind of stuck in a range. And it's funny because it is a very valuable precious metal and used in many places, including like palladium. Now, palladium is taken up to the upside, but platinum refuses to really break through the 1100 level. Look, anything that could create buyers to be forced to come in would be good. And of course, if there turns out to be a little bit of a shortage, it would be obviously good for those who own it and are long it.
An article started trending on Twitter about Fed Powell's advisor claiming some of the transactions Powell made during blackout periods were mistakes. What are your thoughts on Fed officials trading stock?
Well, I think that's criminal. I mean, the average person is not allowed, the average person, if I get inside information, I can't trade off of it legally. And for them to trade off of these things is laughable. But they, of course, we know they get away with it. We know Nancy Pelosi made $150 million trading stocks in her career. It's amazing how they're always right. It is Hillary Clinton. They've all done it. And I'm not just blaming the Democrats because, I don't know the stories of the Republicans who've done it as well. But it's a horrible deal. And I assure you, many of them made a fortune during COVID, knowing which was going to get the vaccine. And that also helps them direct their policies towards the companies they want to benefit. So I think it's a big, big mistake to allow them because they've got too much power to control these markets.
Okay, so now according to Samsung Asset Management, There were 8 Metaverse ETFs launched in South Korea as of January, drawing over $1 billion in inflows. Some predict that the Metaverse will become a $1 trillion market in the next few years. Do you think the Metaverse will be able to live up to all the hype?
You mean Fantasy Island? No, I don't understand this whole Metaverse. I mean, I have no idea what it is. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. And I don't see the attraction. And maybe this is the new, maybe this is like the new game playing world. I don't really know. I mean, certainly there's a lot of people that will look into things. And of course, you look for people that are looking for the magic answer somewhere. I don't see it. And to me, you want to talk about a Ponzi scheme or a bubble type of thing, that's the Metaverse.
Okay, so let's come back to oil here. Oil surpassing $100 a barrel is almost a given at this point. Some analysts are forecasting that it could go as high as $150 in the near term. What are your thoughts on the price action we've been seeing in the oil market?
Well, I mean, other than it's lower today, I mean, we've thought since the Biden administration took over and they came with their ridiculous energy policy in general, that oil was going to at least 100. And I think that the all-time highs of 147 are certainly in play at some point. Obviously, they're not going there up in one day. They're going to have to go step by step and level by level. But as long as we maintain a policy that gives all the power to Russia, to Saudi Arabia, and to China, they're going to continue, prices are going to continue to go higher because they are not going to facilitate to Biden's demands or are begging for more oil. They're there to make profit, and that's what they're going to do. And if we wanted to solve that problem, we could easily do it with the stroke of a pen, but we decide not to, and we decide to continue to pressure the supply chain and the citizens of the United States that are now paying so much for oil that it's almost laughable.
Okay, so we have to ask you about earnings season. What stories have you found most interesting?
You know what? It's hard to say. This is such a strange earnings season because you've got the supply chain issue. So where's that going to affect profits in companies? And the other real problem you have in earnings in general is the company's ability to kind of under-promise, knowing what their earnings may be and way under-promise. So when they finally hit the market, they look pretty good. So it's really hard to grasp because there's so many issues, plus inflation, plus companies can't get help. I mean, there's so many. The earnings season should be a disaster, but this is going to really depend on how they pre-place the numbers and the expectations before they come out.
Okay, so Bubba, one more thing before we let you go. We have to talk about gold. What kind of price action are you anticipating as the Fed looks to hike rates?
Well, I think gold looks great now. And I think, we had that major struggle back around, 1800 was like a pivot point. It was like a magnet. If it went above 18, it came back. If it went below 18, it came back. Well, now we're over 1900. And I think that I don't look at that stuff because that's already kind of pre-priced. But gold itself looks like it's headed now possibly to 2000. And I think that if it continue to go and we continue to see the same type of trading action, you're going to see a potential run at the all-time highs. When you look at the precious metal, they look for buyers. And I think the rally kicked off about a week ago on a fear-based short covering rally. And of course, what happened, it broke technical levels and has now acted as exactly as it should, pulls back a little bit and then rallies bigger and pulls back. And I think that's going to continue. I think that the precious metal space now has really suddenly become much stronger and a much bigger player again.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Bubba. We'll catch up with you soon.
Cassandra, always a pleasure. If you got more, I'll stay.
We'll save it for next time, but thank you.
Anytime.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. We'll be back again tomorrow, but in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share, please.